it's Lorian, and this video was actually supposed to have gone up yesterday, but I was getting my hair cut, and what I had already filmed turns out it was very blurry when I opened it up to start editing it. So it's up today. This is my top series where I talk about top 10 something or other, and as the title says, I'm talking about my favorite manga and graphic novels and comic lines. So just before we get started, you may notice my hair. I just got my hair done, so my haircut. You like it? You like it? I'm excited. Okay, moving off of beauty, back onto books. Let's get started. Now, a lot of these are manga, and if you don't know, while I have a pretty big manga collection, and I just added some more stuff to it recently, it's tiny compared to what I've actually read, because I read most of my manga online. A lot of the manga that I read, you can't find in the US. Like, I am up to date, or almost up to date, on Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece with what's been released in Japan versus where they are in publication in the US. Because they're going a lot slower here in the US than it's actually been released. I'm going to show you the pictures of the first volumes. I don't actually have them in physical form here. I have quite a few, but not all 10. Another note, except for 2 items on this list, I am not including anything that is still going. And the 2 exceptions I'll explain when I get to it. Number 10 is Love Letter by Koji Seo. Down below, I will link my top 10 books that made me cry, or top 20 books that made me cry. This was on that list. Love Letter is a manga that is just a one-shot, which means that it's only about 120 pages long, compared to a manga that can go volume after volume after volume in 20-page chapter intervals, and that's how they're released, is every chapter. One-shots, they're released all at once, and that's all there is. It usually is the precursor to a full story, but in this case, this is all there was. Love Letter is a story that takes place in World War II in Japan, following this woman who falls in love with this guy, and at the very beginning of the war, when we're starting to firebomb Tokyo, or just before we start doing that, and it follows with him as he is either joins or is conscripted into the military, and then he is assigned by force to become a kamikaze pilot. And it is a tragedy. It is so sad. It is so beautiful. And you find out after you read it that it's a true story, and this is a mangaka who took a live interview with this woman, used their real names, and just put images to it. If that doesn't rip your heart out, I don't know, because you learn she never really wanted him to be in the military. She never did. She didn't approve of the war. So sad. Number 9 is another one I've read completely online, and it has just recently completed that they've released online, and they're slowly releasing it in the US. And the English version of the name is Dawn of the Arcana by Ray Toma. Dawn of the Arcana follows, by the way, I don't know many of the character names. Here's the main characters' names. She is a princess who has been given to the enemy nation, and in this world, it's these 2 countries at war, and in their world, only the royalty have black hair, and she doesn't have black hair, which means she's not 100% royal. So it was an insult to send her, and she's very, very angry because she's been mistreated by the royal family of her own country, and now she's been handed over to the enemy expecting to die. And the story is really cool because you watch her go from being, you know, this girl who's just like a puppet basically and has accepted the role to becoming, this is a spoiler, but she becomes her own queen, which is amazing, and I love it. I love all the twists. There's racism, there's this class system, it talks about like war, adultery's in there. It's got a lot of dark things, but it's not really a dark story. It is sad. There are sad points, and where I'm like, how could they do that? But it's not like Game of Thrones. It's like Game of Thrones for 12-year-olds. There we go. Except not quite so much. Yeah. Number 8 is another manga I read online, and that is Cat Street by Yoko Kamio. Cat Street follows this character, name on the screen. She was a child actress who was betrayed by a close friend, publicly, humiliatingly as a young kid, like 8 years old, if that. Maybe she was 6. And it traumatized her and she gave up living entirely. She hasn't been to school once. In Japan, there's 3 different alphabets and you have to know all 3 to be literate. And she knows 1. I think it's just katakana. She doesn't know kanji or the other one. She's just kind of let her life go by. She's recruited by this man to join this school for people kind of like her, who don't really fit in traditional society and don't have a traditional path. And there she learns that she can be something more. She can transcend what happened to her. She meets other people, one of which is this like super genius who at like 16 is smarter than most people with PhDs and stuff, and he can do things just naturally with very little training, and so he like runs way ahead of what the normal school curve is. And then there's this girl who's like a goth and she doesn't fit in. And so she learns that among these weird friends how to rebuild her life. And it's a very self-empowering type of manga. It's called Slice of Life, which means it's contemporary. And I don't really like slice of life or contemporary books or mangas or comics or anything, but I really love Cat Street, and I thought it was just so empowering to follow this character. Number 7 wasn't originally on this list, and it's not written down, but I'm replacing something because I thought, how did I not include this? Number 7 is the Calvin and Hobbes comic by Bill Watterson. Calvin and Hobbes, I grew up having my dad read this to me. It is an American comic strip that used to be in the Sunday paper but is no longer in print, and there's no more new stuff coming, so there's just these bind-ups that I keep finding at used bookstores and things. And this is the essential Calvin and Hobbes. My family, combined with the one I have, we have 5 of them. And it just follows Calvin, who is this 6-year-old with an overactive imagination, and his stuffed tiger Hobbes that comes to life and is a real person to him. It wasn't until like I started being on Pinterest and things that I started to realize that a lot of people loved Calvin and Hobbes. He is crazy. He gets spanked because he does stupid things, like he pretends he's a dinosaur and then bites his mom and then he wonders why she gets so mad at him and things like that. He locks the babysitter out of the house. It's really silly. It's just really lighthearted. It's replacing a pretty dark manga that I had, which was, I'm gonna mention it, Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. But the reason why I put this on here is one of the things I learned is the world is trying to get people, especially in America. I don't know if it's for if you lived elsewhere out of the country, I don't know if that's true for you. But in America, we're trying to build up kids' creativity because a lot of times, and in previous generations, including when this was going around and when I was a kid, they kind of crush it out of you. And the world really does. But it teaches you not to let it run completely wild, but to harness it and to use it and to be something more. And it's funny, it's great. It tells you things not to do as a parent. It certainly taught me when I was like 4 what not to do when I had a babysitter, things like that. I love it so much, and I want to own a ton of copies. This is actually one of my family's copies. This isn't coming with me if I move out. I do have one, but I didn't feel like pulling it out. I'm lazy. Number 6, back to manga, is From Far Away by Kyoko Hikawa. From Far Away follows the story of Noriko. And Noriko was just this typical Japanese girl in like middle school or early high school. She's been having dreams. Her crazy dreams are of this different land. Now, this came out in the early 2000s after 9/11 and the terrorist attacks that were hitting all over the world. In this, a terrorist group is setting up bombs all over Tokyo. She is out walking home with her friends talking about these dreams when a little boy loses his ball. She goes chasing after the ball and the ball hits this bag, and the bag was a bomb and it explodes. Instead of killing her, she is transported to the world that she imagined. There she meets this man named Izark, and Izark knows, and she later learns, that she is the Awakening, which means that she can control the Sky Demon. That's what they say. And so the whole world, every government in the world, every person of any type of power is looking for the awakening, because if you control the awakening, you control this sky demon. And this poor girl, she don't even know the language. She has no idea what's going on. She doesn't know where she is. It takes her a while to realize she's in a different world entirely. And so she's just trying to survive, and Izark is helping her out. It is a shoujo, which means it's for girls, which means it's not gonna have any like on-screen sex or anything. This is rated T for teen, so 13 up. It's a lot more mellow than most PG-13, but it is a romance. It's got some sci-fi action and adventure, and I just really, really loved it. I compare a lot of times when a person from our world is taken into a magic world, I compare this manga series, because a lot of time they don't do it as good. Number 5 is another manga I read online. I actually got into the anime first. We changed cable providers, and I stopped being able to see it. And it is Eureka 7 by Jinsei Kataoka. I don't know how to say it in Japanese. Eureka 7, what they describe for Volume 1 isn't actually the story. It's the beginning of the story. It follows this character, and there's no sister like in the anime. So if you've seen the anime, just ignore it. That's not that they have so much stuff that is not in the manga, and I prefer the manga to the anime. He lives with his grandfather. It's really hard to describe, and I don't remember everything, but this is what I remember. He is recruited by this group, and he's seen them because they're in a magazine, and they talk about him because they can use this sort of technology that only is capable to make things like hoverboards and big giant mecha things. It's a mecha series. If you don't know what that means, it's a giant robot. Like, think Pacific Rim. That's actually a mecha manga that was turned into or a comic turned into an American movie. But it's along those same lines. This only exists because an alien race has invaded the Earth, and they've changed all the sea to rock. And there's some sort of phenomenon going on that they never fully explain enough for me to have understood it when I read this, where they can actually use hovercraft, and there's a war going on. They're a group of rebels. There's the government that wants to stop the rebels, and the aliens are trying to wipe out the planet. That's still going on, and it's this three-way war, and lots of people die, and it's really heart-wrenching, and it's a load of fun, and I just really enjoyed it. I read it years ago, but I love it so much that I'm like, I want to own it. I just haven't purchased it yet. I haven't seen it in stores. From Far Away and Eureka 7 are two that I just can't find very easily, but I really, really loved Eureka 7, and I just need to make the time to reread it. Maybe when I'm done with Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist, I'll go back to it. Number 4, y'all have seen me haul this. I've talked about it before, but it is Elfquest by Wendy and Richard Pini. This is Volume 1, which is Fire and Flight, which is 1.5 of the DC bind-ups. All of Elfquest is available to read online. I will link that page. Now, what Elfquest is it follows Cutter. He's the main character of almost all the different storylines of Elfquest, but especially in the main quest, Cutter and his tribe are trying to survive in a world where elves are being hunted down by humans. Humans view them as demons and sacrifice them to their god. That's actually the opening scene, is they're trying to sacrifice a member of Cutter's tribe. This is in the first chapter, but this crazy man has had enough with the elves, and so he sets the forest on fire, ruining both tribes. And so the elves escape, they travel across the desert, and they meet another tribe of elves. And it just keeps building from there. Now, Elfquest is one of the two that I mentioned that is still going, but they have different storylines. The main quest storyline has 4 volumes, it's completed. And even if you want to go bind up by bind up, it's basically still completed. It's not like manga or American comics. American comics, like Calvin and Hobbes, is 1 strip every Sunday, or even every single day in the newspaper. Batman and American comics are released like once a month or once a week or something, so like DC and Marvel, it varies by title. Elfquest is different because while it's once a month, but they actually stopped writing this and they only work from title to title. This is the main quest line. Right now they are doing Final Quest, just be warned, but there's so much that you can read that's why I'm including it, and because, you know, it's bind up by bind up. They run it for a while, several titles, and then they stop, and then they run it for a while, and then 7 titles and stop. And right now they're just doing Final Quest. The next 3 you've heard me talk about in other videos. Number 3 is Moroni Tension by Nobuhiro Watsuki. Moroni Tension, for the millionth time, in case you don't know, Moroni Tension follows the story of Kenshin Himura, and he is a wandering samurai. A term that actually the mangaka created is Rurouni. So he's Rurouni, a wandering samurai, and he wanders into Tokyo and meets Karu Kamiya. She tries to arrest him because a man is using the name Hitokiri Batosai, and is going around toting that he is using the sword style Kamiya Kashin that her father created. That is not the whole story of the arc, that's the very beginning. And it just follows him and her coming together and him gathering more friends, and he faces his past. This is a beautiful story. Kenshin is one of my favorite protagonists ever. Out of every protagonist I've ever read, actually the one that I would love the most to meet in person would be Kenshin, just because he is like my hero and he's amazing and he has seen horrible things in his life and he tries to stay strong, and I love this manga. It's really, really well done. It's funny. If you've seen the anime, that ain't nothing compared to the manga. They don't even have Oro. Number 2 is another one I read online. I actually have a review for that, and so I will link it down below, and that is Nora, Rise of the Yokai Clan by Hiroshi Shiibashi. Nora, Rise of the Yokai Clan follows the story of Rikuo Nora, who is 1/4 yokai, aka demon, and his grandfather is the king of all yokai, and he is his heir, but he doesn't like being a demon. He doesn't want to be a yokai. He doesn't want to inherit anything. And the manga story follows as he accepts first his demon side and then both his human side, how he becomes king of all yokai and creates his own night parade of 100 demons with people who are loyal to him. If you're hearing my brother, I'm sorry. He's playing video games with his friends, so he's loud. I really like it because it teaches you to acknowledge who you are as a person and not to hide from it. And it teaches you a lot about responsibility, about being a leader. I just love his story and how he accepts different things. Like when the world finds out he's a yokai and people start hunting to kill him, that happens. He learns about his own past, and I love it so much. It's so good. I love it. Y'all really should read it. However, it can be a tiny bit graphic. Not like there's a bunch of nudity or blood. It just made me nauseous because there's this point where a human turns into a demon and each part of him becomes its own demon, and watching his body disintegrate and form another demon, kind of like his body, is very, very nauseating to me. And it can be a little bit out there, like there's a female demon that eats girls' livers through their mouths and stuff, so very Halloweeny, but we're getting close to that. So if you're looking for a comic or a manga to read around Halloween, I got you covered. Number 1, I cheated. There isn't one, there's 2 of them. I couldn't pick one. I couldn't. I had to, yeah. But the first one, y'all should know, it is Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. I love this manga very much. I mention it all the time. It is my favorite protagonist ever. Favorite secondary protagonist is right here, or sidekick. I'd mention him in a lot of tags. For the millionth time, once again, Fullmetal Alchemist follows the story of Edward and Alphonse Elric. In their world, there isn't science and physics that runs things, it's something called alchemy. They committed the ultimate taboo. They tried to bring their mother back from the dead. And the reason it's a taboo is because it can kill you. Edward lost his right arm and left leg just above the knee, and Alphonse lost his entire body and is just a soul bound to the armor through a blood seal. I really like it because there are so many lessons to learn along with Ed. It really teaches you that you can't give up. you can't give up even when you're fighting a horrible illness, even if you can't walk on your own two legs. One of the best lines that I love that he says is, someone says, "What do I do now?" And he says, "I don't know, give it up and keep moving on, keep going. You have two good legs, use them." But I really think it's really well done. Favorite anime, favorite protagonist, favorite manga, yeah. But I thought about it. I had to add a second one that ties, because I love Fullmetal Alchemist, but there's something that I grew up on that I love so much, and it's a big part of me. And y'all, I've been bombarding you with it, and I am going to continue to do so, and it is Batman by DC Comics. I'm saying DC Comics, the publisher, because each arc of Batman is written by someone completely else. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to include it. Another reason is because Batman's never going to end. How could I not include it? It's never gonna end. I love Batman. I recently got into the New 52 just this year. I've been bombarding you guys. Right here I got more Batman and DC Comics. And actually, of the DC Comics line, I am mostly following Batman, because I can't keep track of nothing else. You know, I remember watching the animated series as far back as I can recall. And I thought it was cool because it was the only thing that my dad would watch with me and my brother. And I love it so much. The New 52 has done really, really well. I do like pretty much everything from Batman Year One onwards. I basically like it all. There are some ones towards the beginning, right after a year one, that I'm not too fond of, but that type of Batman, that changed it, and then they did it again, but they stuck very true to what had been created with Batman Year One. This is Face to Face, and it's right after Tim loses his dad, and so Batman and Robin disappeared for a year, and this is what happens when they come back. These are my top 10 comics. Well, this is the ones that I own in my top 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to see more tomorrow. I will definitely have a review up. I filmed it already today. I have my old hair, so just to let y'all know, a lot of my videos I pre-film. I pre-film all the time. I always pre-film because it's so much easier to just edit the thing than to film and then edit. So I pre-film days usually when I'm not supposed to post. That didn't happen yesterday. Good luck with your reading.